Madden 25 comes out August 5th, 16th. Let's talk about it. Dave, what is your thoughts on yet another Madden?
They got me, dude.
No, okay, come on.
They did. They got me.
They got you last year too, and we both tried.
I'm back. I'm back on Madden, dude.
Okay, here we go. Let's hear it. Why? Should we pull the trailer up?
Yeah,
just kind of leave it up on the background.
Let's go ahead and pull up the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very long trailer, so we'll just leave it go in the background here. But I don't know, dude. I think looking at everything that they did, they addressed some pretty key issues, and we talk about this all the time. Could we turn it down just a little bit?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, so we talk about it all the time where it's like, Madden's the same game every year. Madden's the same game every year. Madden sucks. Madden sucks. The gameplay sucks. But I think, I don't know, I'm seeing a lot of work that they're doing to improve the gameplay. Don't you think? Don't you think?
I think they're coating garbage with chocolate. I think they're putting some nice milk chocolate on a pile of poop and saying, "Ooh, it tastes good. This is what's changing," without addressing the core aspect of the game and the core issues of the game. And I kind of see that in the community of Madden in general, where people are like, yeah, okay, this is all great, but you're just expanding on more poop. Like, you got to fix what's really wrong with the game. And so that's kind of...
Okay, what's really wrong with the game?
I don't know. Like, I haven't played Madden in so long because I feel like they're just trying to add a bunch of new stuff. This has changed. This has changed. This has changed. This has changed. Without like I feel like the game at its core is not very fluid, and it has a lot of glitches and core issues that are wrong with it, and then just trying to expand on it without fixing it from last year. They're like, okay, so this is cool. Let's expand on it, but without fixing it. Like, they're expanding on these elements without fixing like the core, like the bones of the game.
See, to me, I think that they are working on fixing the core elements, because the number one thing that I hated about Madden was the gameplay, and not so much just like the gameplay mechanics, but how just like unrealistic things that would happen in that game were. And I think that they've listened to the community and heard those complaints, and I think that's what they're trying to fix right now. Like the actual fluidity of the game, I'd never had a problem with. I thought it was fine. And like the actual mechanics of the game on how you play it, I always thought was fine. The outcomes of the things that happened in the game was always where I drew the line, because there was always just some unrealistic garbage that would happen in every single game, where you have a player like Devin Singletary, who's like one of the smallest running backs in the NFL, just like bucking off 3 linebackers. And you're like, dude, that would never happen. Or you know what I mean? Like you have a defender who's like not even close to you, just dive and touch you with your finger, and all of a sudden you fall flat on your face and fumble the ball. It's like, dude, that would never happen. And I think what we're seeing here is that they're with the new physics-based system, they're trying to fix that stuff and give you more realistic outcomes of how these players would interact with each other on the field.
I guess I could see that, but where I kind of draw the line, or where I kind of see some of this, they're adding more things, and adding more things is going to cause more things to go wrong. And I think that's where a lot of these mishaps in the game happen, and the glitches and, like you said, the unrealistic aspects of the game that happen. And that's what I'm seeing right now, is like there's just so many other things and more elements to control and try to fit it all in a controller, which, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like they're overdoing it with what it could be or should be, if that makes sense.
No, I understand what you're saying. And I think one of the things, and I've seen this argument a lot, but I think one of the things that a lot of people aren't kind of like, I don't know why they're not on board with it, but if you look at these, a lot of these things, a lot of these changes that we were talking about with the core mechanics of how these players interact with each other are really outside of the player's control. And I
Mhm.
think that's the way that it needs to be, right? So we'll just get into some new stuff here because I think if I explain a little bit of this, it'll kind of make more sense. What I'm specifically talking about right now is this boom tech, which integrates the real world physics on how these players interact with each other. And the way that that kind of works is that okay, you have a few things. So one of them is ultimate tackle control, which you now have the ability to control a little bit more of how you tackle these players, right? If you're talking specifically from a defensive standpoint, and the new tackling system improved ball carrier logic and reloaded hit stick. So the you're kind of right. The way that you actually control these players does mean things, but if you're looking at the physics from stuff that's not outside of your control, they're going to be taking into account a lot of different things to determine the outcome of what happens when two players meet each other on the field. And they've broken it up into three like separate stages of the tackle, which is pre-impact, impact, and post-impact. And the way that this is going to work is that combined, like they're taking a combination of statistics, mashing it all together very quickly to determine a more realistic outcome of what's going to happen. And a few things that they're taking into account is going to be the combined momentum of the players. How fast are they actually running at each other? What angle are they coming at each other at? What is like the weight of both players involved, the speed that both players involved? What is the strength rating of both players involved? What are the actual player ratings when we're talking about tackling or breaking tackles and stuff like that? And using like certain behind the scenes dynamics, they're going to be able to calculate what should be the most realistic outcome for each of those tackling situations,
Yeah,
which
and I
I
think
think
that's
is
all
really
really
cool.
cool, and if it works well, and that's where EA has a long track record of introducing these new elements. That's like when they first introduced Frostbite, making it like the new game engine. You know what I mean? Like everybody's super excited about it, and then the more they went in and the more people play, they're like, okay, it's really not all that great. And that's my fear with this new boom stick. Is that what it's called? Boom tackle,
Boom tech.
boom tech. And that's my fear with boom tech is they're saying how great this is, but is it really all that great? Are they only showing the great aspects of it for it to come out and say, "Yep, it's just another Madden, just another Madden," and that's where my fear. I don't get me wrong. I would love this to solve all of Madden's issues. Like Madden, everybody, you know what I mean? Like where Madden falls short. I hope this new boom tech and the physics based and the changes that they're adding to the animations of the ball carrier. I really hope that makes the game feel more solid in terms of the unrealistic tackles and things like that. But I almost wonder if it's going to be too physics based, where it's almost overkill. Like you would expect somebody to fall down in a certain situation, but physics say it's not going to happen, and then they stumble through tackles when they should be tackled, but because of the animation, they're able to run through these players. Does that make sense? Like I feel like there's a lot that can go wrong with what they're trying to do.
I agree with you. I think there's definitely the possibility for lots to go wrong and for this engine to not work exactly the way that they think. But I'm also kind of hopeful here, right? Because I don't think that they've ever had the ability to kind of do these types of like split second calculations. And I'm almost thinking of it as the way of like, I don't know. I don't know how introducing real world physics into the game can make it worse because in that same situation, right? So you're saying there's a situation where like a player gets hit and they start stumbling and they start breaking all these tackles and stuff like that. Like that is current Madden, and that's part of the things that I hate about it, right? It's like you hit a guy, you bounce off the guy is stumbling and he's running sideways and still breaking tackles. It's like that's not how physics works, right? If that dude is leaning to his side about to fall over, barely have to breathe on him and he's going down. You know what I mean? I think I'm almost kind of just being more optimistic and looking at it that way, where it's like physics says that that dude should go down if anybody touches him, because it's the thing I hate, right? You get that first tackle 3 yards behind the line, and the dude's staggering all over the place, and then all of a sudden he just bucks off your linebacker and goes 90 yards to the house, and you're like, this game's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm kind of looking at it in a more hopeful way of like, okay, now that dude's staggering, that linebacker is going to come up and just put him into next week, because that's what physics says should happen. You know what I mean? And I totally agree with you guys. Like, I'm on board and I'm optimistic, but in my heart, I'm cautiously pessimistic, right? Because Madden has never really given me any reason to trust them that they're going to pull it off and do the right thing. But I don't know. I feel like this is like the one year that I'm kind of looking at it, going into it with the most optimism of like, okay, they may actually kind of figure this out. You know what I mean? And especially with the release of NCAA with the college football game, we kind of talked about this when college football came out. They kind of have no choice now. You know what I mean? Like, they're not the only game in town. You know what I mean? If this Madden sucks, everybody's just going to play college football, and Madden will be done. So it's like, if there was one year that they really have to make good on the promises, it's this year.
Yeah, definitely agree. And like you said, the elements they're adding, don't get me wrong, like they're cool elements and they're really cool. It gives the player, like the ball carrier one, I thought that was really cool. So they're adding different animations in terms of like the juke direction. One thing I thought was pretty cool, they added a hezzy move, which I think is really neat. And from what I noticed, it's like you'll be able to combo these jukes and these like moves a lot better to be like it would be more realistic. But again, I'm just again like you are cautiously pessimistic, or in my heart pessimistic of what's going to happen, just given their track record and EA's track record in general of their sports games. Well, that's not all true because I feel like I'd never hear bad things about NHL, but I don't play NHL, so and I never grew up playing it. FIFA, I know had a lot of positive things to say, or FC 25, 24. They were very positive in the changes with the whole not FIFA anymore. So I mean, it's cool that they're trying to make good on what the fans want, but it's just is it going to deliver is my biggest question. And until like I can actually play the game, it's hard for me to say. And that was very similar in how you were with college football. Um, Also, there's a couple other games that you were very close to thinking about like that. You wanted to see gameplay, you wanted to feel the gameplay, and overall, I would love this game to be the best, or this Madden to be the best Madden. But it's hard for me to look past the track record and things like that. But the features that they're adding are really cool. I really also like the the changes to the hit stick, where it's more like all about the angle that you have, and it's gonna have feedback, kind of similar to 2K, which we're gonna talk about 2K in a little bit, but how your timing really matters. So if you're early, it's going to penalize you, like, and you might not make the tackle, and they might just run right through you or jump out of the tackle. But if you're perfect, you're gonna feel the hit stick, and you're gonna hear the hit stick, and I think that's really cool. I feel like they took away from some of that like excitement when you get a big perfect hit stick and like the noise of it. But so overall, I think the game is adding cool elements as long as it's not again putting chocolate on poop. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I hope it's just a nice they're making the whole thing milk chocolate, not just, an empty filling.
I am not going to fault one person for thinking that way. If you are down in the comments saying like EA is just going to screw us on Madden again like they did every year, there is no argument that I can have. There's none. I mean, there's honestly none. I cannot say anything to you. I mean, it is a very warranted opinion, and I understand why people are like, it's just going to be the same game that it is every year. Because honestly, for the past, I can't even tell you how long, maybe at least 5 years, that's what it's been. It's just been the same nonsense over and over. But I don't know. Like I said, I think this is the kind of the one year where they really have to kind of deliver on these promises, because they have competition, and the competition is literally within their own studios. So, I mean, they have to get this done. And just seeing these changes, it's like, I feel like they're heading in the right direction, because you can say all the stuff that they do about like, oh, there's a new draft, there's the new stuff that in franchise, but nobody cares. Like I've talked about that till I was blue in the face. Nobody cares about all that shit because it's gonna be just status quo the longer that you play the game. The only thing that really matters is the gameplay, and I think they've done some pretty detailed stuff to try and improve the gameplay, or at least show us that they're making an attempt to improve the gameplay. And we talked about the physics system, which you don't really have a ton of control over. That's going to be all kind of behind the scenes. But talking about those other things that you really enjoyed, that you were really excited about, the new ball carrier stuff, the new hit stick, they turned a lot of that into like much more skill focused stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's a skill based thing at this point. And that was another complaint that I had about Madden, where it's like you're playing the game, and a lot of times the things that don't go your way when you're playing Madden are outside of your control. It's just a lot of garbage. It's like that's my number one thing of every time I play Madden. I'm like, that would never happen, or like, how did that happen? Or that doesn't even make any sense why that would happen. And they're they've shown me that they're giving us more control, making it more skill based, and making the things that we can't control improve.
And one thing I was going to go into, one thing I do not like about the change, I don't know if you noticed in the gameplay trailer where they were talking about the spectacular catch button now.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed, like the animations of these catches is literally like glue. Like it just like sucks to their hand, and I'm worried that this spectacular catch is going to be almost overkill or almost OP. Now, I don't want to say overpowered, but there's going to be some very unrealistic catches because of they hit the spectacular catch button, where like I don't know if the defense is going to have something similar. Like if they're using spectacular catch, I'm just going to use bat down. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
who's going to win that 50-50 ball? He's using spectacular catch, I'm using SWAT. Like, how is that algorithm going to work, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, and the thing about the catching, it's funny that you brought that up. A lot of people are excited for the spectacular catch button. Spectacular catch isn't new. That they had that in like I forget what Madden they had it in. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago they had spectacular catch and they got rid of it. But I think the spectacular catch, the way that they've explained it is like you have more catch control and more catch variety, right? And with the spectacular catch, you've seen a lot of these animations of like the one-handed grab and stuff like that. But the way that they kind of keep that from getting OP, right, is your player has a certain catch percentage based on stats and stuff like that, right? Now, if you just try to catch the ball, and they've already kind of done this before where they've done like just catch the ball, or they do run after the catch, you know what I mean? Like your catch rate percentage goes down significantly when you're trying to do a spectacular catch. So that's really going to be on them to find the correct balance. Like if you hit spectacular catch, what is the probability that you should catch that ball? And I think that this new physics-based system is going to kind of work in favor to make spectacular catch better, because it's going to be more adaptive and more realistic and be able to tell the actual CPU like, yes, he should catch this ball, or like, no, he should not catch this ball. You know what I mean? So again, this is, it's cool that they put this kind of stuff in. We just have to see how well they execute, because if they execute it well and your catch percentage rate if on like a contested ball on a spectacular catch is like 15%, 20%, I mean, that's probably statistical average. You know what I mean? If we start seeing like spectacular catches, just you're jumping 40 feet in the air and just finger plucking a ball over to like 3 defenders, like that's a problem. You know what I mean? So we need to rely on EA to figure out what the correct algorithm is to make this work.
They're probably working hard towards that, and like you said, it's a high risk, high reward situation. And like you said, it all depends on you're more like it's more likely for drops and pass breakups with the spectacular catch. And so is it really worth it? Because if you tip it up in the air and it's picked off, so yeah, I could see. I think it's a big probability thing, and is it really worth using? I think that's going to be also on the player to decide. Well, it'd be so cool to do this spectacular catch over this defender, but there's a huge risk that they'll just tip it and get an interception. So okay, that all makes sense. Some other little things that I know you said you don't want to talk about a bunch of things with the franchise mode, but they're adding some new environments, storylines, which I'm not too sure. Like I know what they are, but it's basically saying like if a player shows up to training camp, your decision and the player's out of shape, it's your decision to how to handle them, and that will determine whether or not he'll be ready for the season or he'll start the season out of shape. So okay, cool. I mean, I don't know what else to talk about with that.
Yeah, they're like little storylines
Yeah,
inside of your franchise, which I think is fine because
yeah,
it's it's whatever. And I think they've adopted this idea from EA,
yeah.
where yeah, this is one hundred
Or
percent
2K, you
adopt.
mean?
No, I think they adopted it from NCAA.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. They have
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Right.
yeah. So I think one of the things they adopted from NCAA was like this player, like happiness and stuff like that, where you're gonna get to a point. It's like maybe it's week 4 of the preseason, and you got like a player who's like wondering if they're gonna be in the starting lineup, or you get a player midseason who's getting kind of cranky because they're not getting the ball enough. I mean, this is like and how you answered the questions that they have kind of like affects certain things. Like maybe their stats go up and down and stuff like that slightly. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff is fine. But I mean, it's interesting that they're adding that stuff in. And we kind of saw this coming. We're like, hey, like, we kind of talked about this. If people really kind of like this stuff from, college football, don't be surprised if Madden copies it.
And I think Madden also copied the customization in terms of being able to add your own complete teams, your own logos and uniforms, helmets, and then doing the share where you can share your teams. I will say that's really cool. I love making my own teams, my own logos, and things like that. But where I think they're really expanding on this is, or not expanding, but just adopting it for Madden even more, is like you can have a complete franchise mode with 32 like made up teams, and you could build teams from scratch, like players from scratch. So that's pretty cool. And so you know what that means? They're just gonna all the EA college football people are gonna be like, oh, I can't put my players in Madden, but I can make them. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, but I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. Really, I don't have much more to say aside from the fact that they're adding a bunch of new playbook things based off of the real teams, more route combos, hot control, more at the line. What do you call it? Control. More at the line control, so you can control your linemen a bit more. Um, yeah, just there's adding little things to that they do every Madden, but like you said, the physics based stuff is the huge changes that they're bringing into the season or to the new Madden. And for me, and you may have changed my mind a little bit. Okay, I'm starting to see what they're trying to do, but I was thinking this, and I also saw this I saw this in a comment. I was like, you know what, that would actually be kind of cool but they would. It doesn't financially make sense for them to do this, but you know how Call of Duty they'll do Black Ops 1 year, and then they'll do Modern Warfare, like Treyarch and Activision kind of switch back and forth,
Yeah,
or
like
Infinity Ward. I mean,
flip flop studios.
yeah, so imagine like they did Madden every other year and then college football every other year. So like this year was college football, next year would be Madden. But I know that's kind of unrealistic because like new rookies every year. Well, I mean, there's always updating rosters, but I just know financially that doesn't make sense because people buy Madden every year and they'll buy college football every year. But just imagine like the improvements they could make if they had 2 years rather than less than 12 months. Because you know what I mean? August 16th rolls around. Guess what they're doing? All right, we're done. Next Madden coming up, or EA college football. So
No, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from on that. It just, yeah, it's just too much money left on the table. Because as much as everybody talks smack about both of these games, and I know college football is super hyped right now. I know people really loved college football. And I'm going to be honest, I played college football. It was fine. It wasn't anything fantastic. And I think people are really kind of living off nostalgia right now of just this is the first college football game that we've had in 10 plus years. Um, I think when you start getting college football 26, 27, 28, that's going to die. That love and that nostalgia is going to die, and it's going to be the exact same thing as Madden, where people are kind of, all right, this is the same game every year. But as much as people are saying these are the same games every single year, the millions of people buy them. You know what I mean? So it's like they're still gonna keep making them every year, and people are still gonna buy them.
I think what's gonna happen for like the casual Madden players, like or just casual football players like you and me is we'll find one that really intrigues us and we'll try it and then not buy it for another 5, 6 years and then find another one that intrigues us, buy it. You know what I mean? I think that's how it works for the casual players that aren't really sold on Madden anymore, but for the diehard, similar to Call of Duty, you buy it every year because it's coming out and you just have to have it and you want to be a part of the times. You want to be able to play with your friends that play it. And that's what's going to keep them going forward. And for people to say, if you want Madden to change, quit buying it, it's not that easy. There's true fans of the series, there's true fans of just the NFL in general, and Madden is really the sole game you can play or buy. It's the only game you can buy to play as your favorite NFL characters or players in general. And I wonder with this Madden because I know their contract's coming up on the NFL like soon, and so I wonder if they're really like putting all their eggs in one basket. It's like, okay, we got to make this the Madden everybody wants to play again, or we're gonna lose it. And then it'll be 2K NFL 2K26 coming up, and it'd be like it's gonna be like EA NBA and NBA 2K. So
Yeah, like if this isn't good, if this one isn't good, they're gonna lose the rights. They're not gonna lose the rights. It's not like we're gonna lose Madden, but they're gonna lose the exclusivity, right? So it's gonna be okay for other people to make pro football games that have actual likenesses. You know what I mean? That's an obvious problem for them.
yeah, yep. And I think that they're gonna try their best to make sure that doesn't happen. But let's be honest, like and again, we're gonna talk about 2K coming up here soon, but 2K has a better engine for a lot of the things that they do in basketball. Granted, basketball's a lot different sport, a lot different like animation wise, but their engine, in my opinion, is so much better than Madden's engine.
And I think 2K has a more loyal fan base. And that's not me throwing shade on EA fans. If you guys are fans of EA, I mean, there's great fans of EA on there. But if you look at the general consensus, 2K fans really love 2K. They don't really have a lot of bad things to say about it. EA players talk shit about the games all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I think that's where EA is like, we really got to nail this one right, or it's not the death of us, but we're gonna lose a lot of fans and a lot of players in our game. So I'm curious to see where that goes. I know I doubt they lose their exclusivity. One, probably they're just gonna fork up a bunch of money and because they have the money, but who knows? So
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, honestly, I'm hopeful. I'll run through a couple quick things here, and I apologize, guys. I am looking at my notes, but there's a lot to cover here. I want to make sure if you want to know about this game, you got everything that you need. We talked about the ball carrier physics a little bit. Adam did with being able to stack the moves and stuff like that. Really, really cool. Another really cool thing is we talked about that 3 stages of hit: the pre-impact, the impact, and the post-impact. That also takes effect to the ball carriers. So when you see a tackle animation start to happen, if you guys are watching the trailer, you can see that the ball carrier kind of braces for impact in that pre-impact situation, and when that happens, it's kind of like a visual cue and also like a timing kind of thing that lets you know that you can still use one of these new ball carrier moves. Like you can still use the skill moves of spin moves and jukes and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool. They updated pass blocking where you now get visual cues of who's being blocked pre-snap. And they're even highlighting a defender not accounted for. So you get this like hot defender to let you know like, hey, this guy is uncovered at the moment. New pocket building logic where they say that the pocket forms much more naturally. We talked about the catching, which I thought was really cool. The revamped right stick for improved skill move controls. The complete hot route control. I think we skimmed over that a little bit, but I think that's really interesting, right? So having the ability to call these plays at the line, because I'm a big component of like reading the defense, switching my play at the line, using the hot routes. But the most important thing for me with the hot routes is situational based, right? So with these new hot routes, not only can you control the route that's being ran, but you can control the depth of how far that route is being run. So now if you're looking at just like a simple in and out or like a curl or something like that, you can control it. It's like, do you want a 5-yard curl? Do you want a 10-yard curl? Do you want a 15-yard curl? And I think that's something that's always really kind of lacked from the hot routes, which I think is really going to improve the gameplay and just be kind of a beast for people that play like no huddle offense on the line and stuff like that. I'm super excited for that. The defensive switch stick, so now you can switch defensive players just by hitting the right stick. One really cool thing that I really enjoyed with is the signature authenticity. So I don't know if you saw that,
Mm.
but with the signature authenticity, basically they put like thousands of new animations in the game. So basically every player in the game has their own feel and vibe to it. You know, and if you are not just a fan of like Madden or like like video game football, if you're a fan of the pro game and you like watching the games, these nuances that you see on these players is incredible. And I
Yeah.
think it gives it such a realistic vibe. Like when Lamar gets up to the line and you know he always like messes with his towel and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like you see like those little player nuances in the game where you're like,
Yeah, here we
"Y-
go.
yeah,
I've ever
yeah,
hear that from Dak.
yeah, you hear that from Dak, and it's like that's really cool that they take the
Yeah.
time to like give each character in the game their own just like kind of personal feel. So I'm super excited for that, and of course they are going to include the new kickoff rules, which I'm kind of excited about. I kind of want to see what happens with this new kickoff rule, and
Mm.
I think people are going to start experimenting with it before we actually get to see it like in live games, which is
Right.
kind of interesting. So yeah, super excited for that. The new draft we talked about, that's fine. I mean, it's a more realistic draft experience where you see the board and Roger Goodell and all that stuff. That's gonna get old. You're gonna skip through that. Um, yeah, we talked about the management, and the storylines, revamped progression, which I thought was really cool. They've now revamped the progression system so that younger players improve faster,
Mm.
which I always thought they needed to do because you draft a rookie who's like a 78, and then it takes him until he's like 30 before
Yeah.
he's actually good, and you're like, well, now he wants to retire. So
Yeah.
younger players are going to progress faster. I thought that was really cool. Adam touched on this a little bit. Over 1,000 new sound effects and real crowd audio added to the game, so you're going to hear those hits. I mean, if you have your home team and you've been to a game, you know the sounds of the crowd. Like they're using real crowd noise, they're using real crowd chants to give it
Except
more
for the
of.
Chargers. The Chargers don't have a home field, but that's okay.
That's all right. That's okay, buddy. It's not a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Their home is in your heart.
Yeah, that's true.
And last thing, they actually have 3 different broadcasting teams this year.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so I thought it was really cool. You're not going to hear just Brandon Gowden and Charles Davis. They also added Greg Olson and Mike Tirico, who I think is a great group, and Kate Scott and Brock Horde. So
As long as it's not what's the one guy? Chris. What's his last name?
oh yeah, Collinsworth.
Yeah, I do not like that guy.
Nobody
Chris Collinsworth
likes-
fans, just retire, dude.
Nobody likes that dude. I don't understand why that dude's still announcing games.
The thing with Chris Collinsworth, he always brings it back to himself. Like, back in my day, la da 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 da. It's like, no, I don't care. Another
know-
thing, all right, we're gonna get in some deep crap here. I liked Tommy Romo until I realized how much he has a huge love for Patrick Mahomes. I hate it. He loves Patrick Mahomes more than his own children, I fear.
I mean, I don't know. I think he's okay. I think he just
He's okay when he's not announcing Chiefs games.
okay. I'll give you that. I know you.
I hate him.
I know you have a little bit of bias right now because you hate Patrick Mahomes. I think Tony Romo's really good in the sense that he's one of the most incredible play callers as an announcer. And what I mean by that is so many times you're like Tony, it'll be like 3rd and 5 and Tony Romo's like, watch Kelsey. He's gonna slide out left and then run a quick 5-yard out. And that's the exact play that happens. Like him just being able to read the situation is really incredible. I know he's got a little bit of love for Patrick Mahomes, which you hate, but I honestly, I think Collinsworth is like the dude that kind of does that. That's the thing that I hate about Collinsworth. It's like he'll pick a dude at the beginning of the game and will just for 60 minutes will just crush on that dude, just saying how amazing he is and how great he is. It's just like he focuses super heavy on one player, and anything else that's happening in the game like doesn't exist.
And that's another reason why Chris Collinsworth is, one, he loves Patrick Mahomes just as much, and 2, yeah, I see he's definitely like that. He'll bash a team even if they're doing well too. Like if they're doing well, he'll be like, "Oh, but this last game they sucked." It's like, yeah, but look what's happening in the now, Mr. Chris Collinsworth. And again, I'm very biased. Oftentimes the Chargers are not doing well, and when they're doing well, nobody talks. yeah, I don't know. So that's just some bias. I don't like him for that sole reason. But other than that, Madden, here we come in a couple weeks.
Man, here we come. Couple weeks. Like we said, I give you guys all. I give you all the love for being pessimistic here and just not really trusting the situation. But I will say, if there is one year that Madden is going to be good, it's this year because
Most improved. Don't say good.
if there's one year that Madden is going to be the most improved, it's going to be this year because they literally have no choice. So I'm going to give it a shot this year. If they let me down this year, Madden is dead to me for now until the end of time.